Hello and good morning. Happy Friday. I am looking forward to the weekend. You- Although I'm a little bit concerned about the weather right now because it's been hot and nice all day, but I've been stuck inside doing work, and now it's gonna be the weekend and it's gonna be cold and wet and rainy and not that great outside. So it's like, man, I guess I'll have to spend the time inside playing games or something instead of going out for a nice hike. But that's all tomorrow problem. Today we are working on continuing to get this deployment stuff set up. So I ran a really quick test right before we started, and it looks like it's a little bit upset over a couple of things. First of all, it suggests that we use .apply to get the actual string out. Now that's because we can't manipulate the value. And I'm trying to wonder if do we want to manipulate the value? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But it seems to be fairly upset at that. And so that is on line 79 that we're doing this in. So here we're getting this certificate arn.get. So it wants us to use apply to actually get this to a string. So apply, we get basically the value. So okay, we get a function, and then it returns a promise. It returns a promise, huh? It remains an output. So converting an output to a get. I think that's what we need to do. So perhaps not apply at all, perhaps something else. Let's do a really quick Google search. So Pulumi output to string. Really want to get the solid value. Or let's see, if it's an output, so this certificate ARN, so it's going to be yelling at us because we're getting this, it's an output, and you are going to be a string. String or null. We can use a union type with this. Hadn't thought about that. Okay, let's try that. So we have, what is this? This is certificate ARN. Here's our certificate ARN. You're this config get. So let's set your type here. So you can be a string, or you could be null, or you could be an output with a type string inside. How about that? Okay, fine. Instead of null, how about undefined? That makes it happier. Okay, so union types in TypeScript are a little bit interesting. It's basically saying, hey, this variable can be one of these multiple types. And it's slightly different than generics, but sort of works. I guess if we're going to go a little bit more complex with this, then I would probably switch over to a generic. But okay. Because this is going to be changing types. one of these. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so that solves that one. Our next problem here. Validate record. Oh, try giving a unique name. So it is record, validation record. Doesn't tell me a line number, but okay, validation record. Right here. Oh, right, because we are running this function twice. So we probably want to have this name. Well, we need to have this name be specific for something like this. So what if we do validation record and we'll just put in that index for what we're doing. And that should make that a little bit happier. There you go, validation record 0, validation record 1. Okay, awesome. So no, I don't want to do that right now. We are continuing on, and we are being continued on from here. So this is where we left off last time. Generate origin access identity to access the private S3 bucket. So we need an IAM role, or at least permissions, so that Cloudfront, okay, can access this. This is needed to set up S3 policies and make S3 not public. Okay. Oh, and interesting. So that's all this one is. Okay, that's rather simple. So origin access identity for S3. I think I still want to wrap this in a function here. So this is going to be for making create so like, is it permissions? We're telling Cloudfront origin access identity. Okay, I kind of want to go take a look at that. Okay, creates an Amazon CloudFront origin access identity. Normally when referencing an origin access identity CloudFront, you need to prefix the ID with the origin access identity CloudFront special path. Okay, so the CloudFront access identity path allows this to be circumvented. The below snippet demonstrates use with the S3 origin config structure for distribution. So okay, so inside of the distribution, we're gonna have an S3 origin config which then is going to have the origin access identity, which then we're going to do this entire fun thing. But instead, we can just do this. There's several examples here to make it a little bit confusing. Okay, so the unique name of the resource. Arguments are optional, and the only inputs we can give it is a comment. An optional comment for the origin access identity. Okay, cool. Still don't fully understand it, but we're gonna go with it anyways and sort of like see how it plays out. Okay, so this is needed to set up S3 policies and make S3 not public. So basically, it's going to allow Cloudfront to connect into at the S3 bucket. So create, is it a policy? No, it's access identity. So create access identity for connecting to S3. And we're going to return a origin access identity. So name is just going to be, I guess, origin access identity, and comment, allowing Cloudfront to access the S3 bucket. Okay, so then we can call that and get that in down here. I guess we get that in after all this stuff. Create access identity. Okay, so we got that. Then next up, let's see. If config include www included an alias for the www subdomain, distribution aliases, okay, equals config include www. So if so, okay, we're gonna have an array of target domain and then www.target domain. Okay, so distribution aliases is going to be an array of both domain name and www.domain name. So I guess it's just a string. Okay. Distribution args configures the Cloudfront distribution relevant documentation. Okay, so it goes to there. All right, so then we create distribution arguments. Oh, so this is going to be the distribution arguments for Cloudfront itself. So if we look at this, in Cloudfront, we're going to be creating a new distribution, which then takes in these distribution args. which is what these are. So these are the distribution args that we're going to be passing in, and then we just create the distribution. And then there's, I think, all of the helper functions. So I think maybe not. But okay, now it's time to create the actual distribution. So okay, so here's these distribution arguments. They have them being created separately. I don't know if we need to do that or if we could just do them all together. We can take a look at which ones they're doing. Where is it? It's right here. So they're starting with enabled true. Okay, so I guess we have these as required. So it starts with default cache behavior. And oh, that's going to be this entire object here. So if we go down to just here, okay, default cache behavior, we take a look at this. All right, so we have allowed methods, controls which HTTP methods Cloudfront processes and forwards to your Amazon S3 bucket or your custom origin. So this is going to be a web app. So there's really only going to be gets. Are we going to allow everything else? I don't know. What are you doing? Oh, you're doing get head and options. I guess that makes sense. You need head. Head and options are really good for cores stuff. So if we don't put those in, probably cores would fail. So get head and options. Okay, that makes sense. So then inside of here, allowed methods, and I think this is literally just an array of strings for this. So get head options. Then cached methods is also required. Okay, so which of these methods is it going to cache? Their suggestion, the exact same ones. So let's keep these separate because in the future we may decide to stop caching some of these. Okay. Target origin ID is going to be our content bucket ARN. And if we take a look at our content bucket, I think that's the bucket we created. There's the logs bucket. There it is. Content bucket is indeed the bucket that we created. So we're going to need the bucket. Now, this is origin ID. Is that an IRD or an ARN? Where am I? Oh, okay, here it is. It's the ARN. Okay. Viewer protocol policy. Redirect to HTTPS. Okay, yeah. So if anybody comes in as HTTP, we want to automatically redirect you to HTTPS. And I wouldn't be surprised if this has your... Yeah, okay. So use this element to specify the protocol that users can use to access the files. It has to be one of these things. So allow all HTTPS only or redirect to HTTPS. I'm okay with redirect to HTTPS. Okay, so this is allowed methods, cached methods, target origin ID, and viewer protocol policy. Is there anything else in here that we want to put in? So cache, policy ID. Compress, whether you want Cloudfront to automatically compress content for web requests that include accept encoding, gzip in the request header. Default is false. What are you giving us? You're doing those required ones. We have forwarded values. Do not forward any cookies. Interesting. Do not forward the query string. Min time to live, default time to live, and max time to live. Okay. Oh, because that's the cache behavior. Yeah. Oh, so like don't do the cache stuff. Okay, so I guess I'll leave these at default, except for... I'm forgetting, it's the same browser. Forwarded values, let's take a look at that. The forwarded values configuration that specifies how Cloudfront handles query strings, cookies, and headers. Maximum one of these. So if we go in here, if we have it, we need the cookies. The forwarded values cookies that specifies how Cloudfront handles cookies. Okay, then we go into here. Specifies whether or not you want Cloudfront to forward cookies to the origin that is associated with this cache behavior. You can specify all, none, or whitelist. If whitelist, you must include the subsequent whitelisted names. So this is forward none. It does not tell me what the default is if we don't have these. But I'm okay. So I wonder if this means that when if other things like send to me besides my server, it's like, does it try to set a cookie? Interesting. I would assume that I don't want just random people to set cookies in this. So I'm going to set it to be forward none too. So this is going to be the forwarded values, cookies, forward, and then none. And then finally, this is a string of none. Okay, then other defaults. We have a min time to live, default time to live, and max time to live. So default time to live, the default amount of time in seconds that an object is in a Cloudfront cache before Cloudfront forwards another request in the absence of a cache control age, max age, or expires header. So this could be good for us to set because if somebody comes, it could be one of those things where it's like, hey, why isn't it updating? Like I pushed like a new version of the app out and nobody's getting it. And if oh, there's an expires header that we can set too. That could be interesting. But yeah, if you request something, it will serve up a cached version of it. So if it's getting hammered, it won't hit my S3 bucket very often. But if like only one person is hitting it, and it waits 10 minutes, you're always going to get a new one from the S3 bucket or so. If that's set, I can set it for an hour, a day, however long I want. Then we have max time to live. The max amount of time in seconds an object is in the Cloudfront cache. And then min defaults to 0 seconds. So I don't need to set the min that's already set to what they have. 10 minutes is interesting. So we can do that. I'll keep their values for right now, but it's fairly easy, obviously, for us to change this. So we have our default time to live. These are just numbers, right? I believe so, yeah. So this is also in seconds, I believe. It's a number. Yeah, the amount of time in seconds. So if I wanted something like 10 minutes, that would be just 60 times 10, 600. So 600. And then we'll do max time to live as... I'll just do the same thing right now, but we don't know if it's always going to be that way. You're upset now. Why? Not assignable to type this. Oh, query string is missing in cookies forward string, but required in type. So not there. Query string. Okay, so in forwarded values, oh, query string false. Okay. Let's see. Indicates whether or not you want Cloudfront to forward query strings to the origin that is associated with this cache behavior. Okay, for right now, we'll say false, and if we run into problems, we'll deal with that. All right, so that was default cache behavior. Let's head back to distribution args. Okay, so that was that one. Enabled is the next one. So a flag that specifies whether origin shield is enabled. I think that, yes, we want this to be enabled. So enabled true. Origin Shield is a service from AWS that tries to like protect the everything from, you know, just common problems. I think like a DDoS attacks is like a big one that they try to protect you from. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, and there's like things that can get through, but like heck, if they're gonna offer to do it, I might as well take advantage of it. I don't think it costs any extra money either. Okay, origins. One or more of the origins for this distribution, multiple allowed. Okay, so we'll have origins. You're going to be an array of objects. We're going to have domain name and origin ID. So the DNS domain name of either the S3 bucket or website of your custom origin. So we have just a single one here. Origin ID. Okay, so content bucket ARN. Domain name is content bucket website. And okay. So it's basically just telling it like, hey, where that stuff is. So this is okay. That makes sense. So the DNS domain name of either the S3 bucket or website of your custom origin. So in this case, it's the S3 bucket that we're getting, that our website is going to be inside. So this is domain name, and that's going to be our bucket dot. Is it bucket domain name? Website endpoint. Next one is origin ID, the unique identifier of the member origin, which that's the ARN. And that is the origins. Now they have this optional one, S3 origin config. The Cloudfront S3 origin configuration information. If a custom origin is required, use custom origin config instead. And then it's gonna be this distribution origin. So they're doing that with a, oh, this is where they do the origin access identity. Okay, so we need this access identity now. So we'll pass that in and then use that in here. I'm actually going to just rename that to be the same thing. Oh, it needs to be the string. So that's dot CloudFront access identity path. Okay, well, fine, never mind. Is the access identity dot cloud. Okay, there we go. All right, so that should make that happy here. We have some other things that we could potentially throw in here. Origin Shield. Using Origin Shield can help reduce the load on your origin. Maybe. I might want to come back and like sort of look at these later and make any decisions, especially depending upon how much it's going to start like costing. So we'll see. If it ends up costing too much, I may have to like tear this all down and like switch over to something else. But I think it's supposed to be relatively cheap. Okay, so I think the rest of these look okay as defaults. Let's come back to, we have that. Okay, restrictions, I believe, is next. So restrictions, which we have here, and it's going to be restrictions, geo restriction, restriction type none. The method you want to use to restrict distribution of your content by country. So this would allow me to say, hey, I don't want some of you to like get access to this. So you're going to have to use a VPN to access it. Interesting to know. However, I am perfectly fine with you all going in and looking at this. Okay, so this is going to be a restrictions. And then a geo restriction. And then I think, what is it? Restrictions, geo restriction, restriction type. And that's going to be a string of none. Viewer certificate, the SSL configuration for this distribution. Okay, so we have that already. So viewer certificate is next. That's going to be an object, it looks like. And none of these are required, interestingly enough. Okay, what did I... So we go into here, the ACM certificate ARN, the ARN of the certificate, AWS certificate manager certificate you wish to use with this distribution. So we have that one. Interestingly enough, the ACM certificate must be in US East 1, which is gonna be fine. We're hosting everything here in US East 1, so that should be okay. So ACM certificate ARN is, I believe, what we're gonna be using for this. Bolfrestad, hello. So we'll do certificate, which is going to be this certificate here. I'm doing good. How are you doing? So ACM certificate ARN is now going to be our certificate.ARN. And happy Friday. Okay, so then we have, do I want them to use a Cloudfront default certificate? Nah. I don't use a custom domain. I don't think so. Let's take a look at what they're doing. So viewer certificate, ACM certificate. Oh, they're adding SSL support method. Well, let's take a look at that. Oh, wait, what's that? SSL support method is nothing in here. You think you might have come up with a new algorithm for solving Sudokus, but you have to spend more time on it. Ooh, interesting. That could be fun. I know you've been creating lots of them, so I figure that if you're creating them, that's when you'd see that algorithm. Okay, well, so they're putting this in, which is SNI only. I'm curious, what is SNI only? Only SSL. Here's something from Cloudflare. Server name indication. Someone like mailing a package to an apartment building instead of to a house. When mailing something to someone's house, the street address alone is enough to get the package to the right person. But when a package goes to an apartment building, it needs the apartment number in addition to the street address. Otherwise, the package might not go to the right person or might not be delivered at all. Many web servers are more like apartment buildings than houses. They host several domain names, and so the right IP address alone is not enough. Okay, so we need to tell it. Okay, so basically, we're going to do SNI only so that it goes to the right place. So SSL support method. And you don't tell me what you want it to be. And we just say SNI only. All right, well, no errors in here. So that's a good sign. Which means that we're done with our default, like the basic required stuff. Okay, so let's look at, is there anything that we're missing here so far? So we have enabled aliases, we have those, right? We have enabled. We don't have any aliases. Alternate aliases, the Cloudfront distribution can be reached at in addition to whatever.cloudfront.net. Required if you want access to the distribution via config.target domain as well. So using these as distribution aliases, which is this array here. Interesting. Your tool is at the point now where it can solve 9x9 Sudokus, but you need to account for some edge cases. After that, you'll make the algorithm more general for n by n. Oh, interesting. I wonder when you add another sort of like level to it, so like 10 by 10 instead of like 9 by 9, how much slower does it get? Like, is it an n squared problem? Like, I guess it would be, right? Because it's not just like a linear up, it's gonna be fairly heavy. So your algorithm has to be really fast, I suppose. Unless you're just okay with it solving it slow. That's actually that would be fine too, unless you really need it to be fast. Okay, so aliases, and that's gonna be just this string. So we'll do aliases is gonna be a string, an array of strings, and then we can add that in here. Origins, we have that. Default root object indexed HTML. Okay, so we probably need to tell them that. Default root object is indexed HTML. I'm okay with that one, just being hard coded in here. It is a website. If I do need to do something CloudFront for more generic, then that maybe that'll be something different. Okay, default cache behavior we've done. Price class. Of course they don't make that default. Price class. 100 is the least broad and also the least expensive. So I think if we wanted to go find these, actually I wonder if Lumi has a link to them. Not really. ABS, CloudFront, price class. Okay, so here we are. There are 3 price classes, all 200 and 100. And we can see here that they're going to put CloudFront locations into different parts of the world based upon which one we choose. So if I choose all, it would make it so that you loading a website would be really fast everywhere, or at least everywhere in this list. 200 looks like it excludes South America, Australia, and New Zealand, and that's it. And then 100 would be, it would only be super fast available in North America, which, I mean, I like how they, I guess I like how they say like, hey, that includes Mexico and Canada. But yes, it'll be North America and then Europe and Israel. That's interesting sort of like choices there. So Europe, North America for cheap. Everyone else, I'm sorry, for right now, I'm going to keep it as the cheapest. I think what I'm going to want to do is set up some kind of metrics gathering so I can determine like if you're coming from like one of these other countries, then I can come back in and add it to there. So that way you can get fast access then. So we're going to go with price class 100, which just happens to be what they chose here. Does it say, it doesn't say what the default is going to be, which makes me think that it'll be the most expensive. Okay. Custom error responses. You can customize error responses when Cloudfront receives an error from the origin, S3 or some other web service. It can return a different error code and return the response for a different resource. Oh, okay. So I could, if something goes wrong, we can create a different HTML file that it responds with. I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to think about this. We don't have an actual just error right now. So I think maybe I'll just sort of leave this and we'll see what happens if we get any. Restrictions we covered, viewer certificate we covered. Logging config. Okay, so we can now set up, that logging bucket as a config. Okay, so we need the logging bucket. So it is logging config. We can go take a look at this here. The logging configuration that controls how logs are written to your distribution. Okay, so we have to give it a bucket if we choose that. Include cookies, specifies whether or not you want Cloudfront to include cookies in access logs. It could be interesting if somebody's doing an attack, maybe trying to set like bad cookies to like inspect those. But to begin with, we'll start with false also, so we don't just store those in a bucket, plain text. Okay, so I'll be putting them in their own bucket here. So bucket, and that's going to be the logging bucket, and I think that's just the ARN, right? No, the bucket domain name. And then include cookies, we'll say false to begin with. When I have multiple web apps, I might use this same logging bucket over and over and over again. I could see that. So then in that case, prefix the target domain. I could see that. Do I have... We could require that to come in, so like the log prefix, and then we'll do a prefix. I think you're a string. Yeah, and then you'll be the log prefix. Okay. That looks like it's kind of it. So now we're going to create this distribution. So create the Cloudfront distribution here. A lot of things to go in here. Okay, so first of all, our bucket. The access identity, which is this origin access identity, which I believe is Did we ever use it? Create access entity for connecting to S3. I don't think we ever used it. So, oh, here it is. Our certificate. Okay, the certificate. And then this. It's a full certificate, not just the certificate ARN though, right? Oh, right. I don't want this to be inside the if statement, do I? I want this to be. I was correct initially. Like this, okay. So this is gonna be the certificate ARN. Now you're looking for an actual certificate, which I don't think is what we're sort of using. This was just the certificate ARN, so I need to update you. Certificate. So you have this .arn here. So I think I want to change this to be just certificate ARN. So certificate ARN is actually just it's going to be a string or an output string. There it goes. Okay. Next up, are aliases, which is this distribution aliases. The logging bucket. The log prefix. So I'm thinking this is going to be basically just like a Bookspilled platform. So maybe we can just call this like platform. Oh, and that's it. Origin access identity, cannot find name. I want this one. Be in the same scope, please. Okay. All right, that creates the distribution now. We have function for splitting the domain name. We already did that. Some helper functions. Okay. Bucket policy. New ADBS S3 bucket policy. Refer to the bucket created earlier. So we need to create a bucket policy for our bucket. It's going to allow whatever this is. Oh, we're going to take that in from, interesting, Plumi.all access. Okay, interesting. Okay, so that will allow only Cloudfront to read it. Give Cloudfront access to the entire bucket. Okay, so we need to create a bucket policy now. And this is going to be just a bucket policy that we're getting back. Okay, so bucket, the name of the bucket to which to apply the policy. So, well, bucket. Okay, so we'll need to take in the bucket. And it says it's the name. So is that bucket.name? Or is it ARN? Site bucket. Wait, is site bucket different than, was it content bucket or site bucket? Yeah, content bucket is different than site bucket. So where is site bucket? This is literally the only time we see site bucket. This feels like a bug to me. I would not be surprised. Okay, and policy is going to the content bucket ARN. This must be the content bucket. Okay, but it's the ID of this. Okay, and then policy is going to be a string or policy document. The text of the policy. Although this is a bucket policy rather than an IM policy, the AWS IM get policy document data source may be used, so long as it specifies a principal. The policies have always been a little bit confusing to me. Okay, but they're doing a JSON string file, so it's going to be a string of the actual policy that they're using to create this. Okay. Now they're doing this entire Flumi all. They're grabbing origin access identity and content bucket. So they're combining those two things together so we get them in this apply. Okay, and then that outputs to this thing, which then they return the default of. Okay, so sort of like a promise at all. It takes an array of just different resources and allows us to mutate them into a single final value. So this is the origin access identity that we created. Up here? Yeah. Okay, this origin access identity there. Okay, so we want to make sure it's the exact same one. And then the content bucket, which is probably the same thing as the site bucket here. And then that's going to be this this string. So I'm actually thinking I might do that right here. So we're going to do a const. This is going to be our policy. And we're going to create this as a full object just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Okay, so we're going to have... Actually, for this one, I think I'll just steal this because these are not fun to make. Okay, so version of the policy document. This is set by AWS. We can go take a look to see if we can find policy S3 bucket policy. Do they have like a generator? So this is from AWS's blog. The new AWS Policy Generator simplifies the creating. Okay, let's do it. You're okay. Connection is not secure. Hopefully it should be okay. This is going to be a S3 bucket policy. I want to allow. Yeah, we want to allow principal. Okay, is the origin access identity IAM/ARN? Okay, so if I just do something like that, I'll do okay, AWS service. I'm assuming that this is going to be the Cloudfront? Oh, no. Okay, it's going to be S3 actions. I think it was like get object. Get bucket object, maybe? S3 get object. I don't see a get bucket object. Oh, it's just get object. That's why. Okay. There it is. Get object. Amazon resource name. ARN should follow the format. So I'll use that for this one. Add conditions. Do I want to add conditions? So effect allow, principal is that, action is this, resource. I think that's it. Oh, must valid, give it a valid. I don't actually have one. I want it to be generic because we don't have it yet. Oh, look, okay, if I do that, it likes it. Great. Okay, so if I add statement, that's the only one I want, generate the policy, and this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna take this. Put you in here. Okay, so it seems to like all of this. Okay, so we have our ID, policy ID is this, version is the same one. Okay, that's good to know. Statement. I don't know what most of these are. Action, okay, so effect, allow, resource. So then this is gonna have to be the ARN of the resource getting access to it, I believe. The bucket ARN. Okay, so bucket.ARN. Interesting that they're having to string that with a dash. Okay. Oh, okay. I think I get it. So we do that. And then we say /star. So everything inside this bucket. Principal is AWS, and then it's going to be this origin access identity IMARN. Now, interesting, this is not an array here, but I think I can do that anyway. So you're going to be a origin access identity. Okay, so I think that's everything. Let's just double check stuff. So I think in general, this should work. And we'll give you the policy, which is going to be a JSON stringify the policy. So we're going to create the policy here. Okay, so we have that. Okay, next up, create the alias record. All right, so creating the alias record. Config target domain, our CDN. Oh, this is the Cloudfront. And then config, okay, so our target domains, that's going to be our, like www. Okay, so. Now create alias record. It's on line 257. Creates a new Route 53 DNS record pointing the domain to the Cloudfront distribution. Okay, so I don't think we have that one yet. This is going to be just a Route 53 record. Let's do Route 53 record. Now they have, if it's this one, create www alias record. So I want to reuse this twice. So we're going to have name. It's going to be a string. Okay, so first off, the name of the record. So Domain parts subdomain. Okay, so if there's a subdomain, so if it's like www dot or something like that, here for this one, the name is www dot target domain. Okay, so then here I want you to be domain name. A type. The type, oh, okay, so it's going to be like an A, that kind of thing. So, sure. Type is A. Zone ID. Hosted zone ID. I think, did we already get that? I feel like we got that a long time ago. Do I have it down here? Hosted zone ID down here, but I only got that if we don't have a certificate. And we never created that otherwise. Oh, look at that. They're getting the hosted zone ID here regardless. Also, they're doing this asynchronous style. So that means this needs to be async await function. But okay, we need to grab the hosted zone ID. I guess we just get to grab the hosted zone. And really get Route 53 hosted zone ID. We already have you, which is an async function that returns a promise string that gives us the zone ID. Okay. I think we can just pass this in then. So then, okay, for alias record, we're gonna do domain parts that parent domain. Okay, yeah, so it's just parent domain. It's the same thing. So it's gonna be just like bricksbuilds.com essentially. So we want zone ID is a string. That's it for required. Okay, so we have name, which is, oh, interesting. Okay, so for this one, it's just the subdomain. So that would be like www, for example. That target domain. Domain parts and subdomain. Interesting. I wonder if this is going to actually work properly. We may need to go take a look at this one. The DNS domain name for a Cloudfront distribution, S3 bucket, ELB, or other resource record set in this hosted zone. Oh, for Cloudfront distribution. So you're doing the main part subdomain, so if I don't have one, like if it is just the parent, okay, let's look at their examples here. Yeah, so name would be like www.example.com So I guess in this case it would be just like the full one. Oh, here's like dub. Whereas here is example.com. So I guess you could do both. Oh, because it's type A, type C name. What alias record? Type A. We're gonna have aliases. Name example.com. Okay, so that's gonna be fine. So domain name will work out here. So domain name for this. Type zone ID is gonna be the string. And then aliases, because we are using aliases here. For these aliases, an alias block conflicts with TTL and records alias. Okay, so go into here. Evaluate target health. Set to true if you want Route 53 to determine whether to respond to DNS queries using this resource record set by checking the health of the resource record set. Evaluate target health. You have true. Okay. So you have name, zone ID, and evaluate target health. So hosted zone ID for Cloudfront distribution. Okay, that should be the same one. Oh, distribution. Oh, so we're grabbing it from Cloudfront and the domain name from Cloudfront, and then evaluate target health. So only serve it if Cloudfront is healthy. Okay, makes sense. And these are all required. Okay, so we need the Cloudfront distribution. And we're only doing a single alias here. Yeah, just for this one. So evaluate target health, we'll have true. Name is gonna be the Cloudfront distribution.domain name. And zone ID is going to be the Cloudfront distribution hosted zone ID. And that's it for that one. Okay, easy. So then we'll create our record. So this is going to be the Route 53 record equals create Route 53 record. So the name for this is I guess Route 53 record domain name. Just put that. The zone ID. So we actually need to get the zone ID. Which we get Route 53 hosted zone ID. So we'll await, get that domain name. Okay, so domain name again. Did I just pull in something? I didn't want to. Feel like I might have. Import domain from process. Yeah, don't do that, please. Okay. And then the AWS Cloudfront distribution, which is Cloudfront distribution. Okay, so there's that. And then we want to do the same thing for the dub record. So const dub Route 53 record create 53 record. This is going to be dub route 53 record. Domain name. We need to do the same thing, so we're going to await. I'm okay with doing this like just twice like this. This is not something we're going to run very often, so having it be like super fast or efficient is not really all that big of a deal. And our Cloudfront distribution here too. Okay. Then okay, we create our A record. We create that and then exports these to make it like easier to sort of see what they are. But like the idea is now it would work. So if I do a Lumi up, will this work? I mean, no error messages. Let's see. So it's going to create 2 buckets, a ACM certificate, a origin access identity. So I don't see any reason not to create this right now, but I'm out of time. So what I think I'm gonna do, I think I actually will run the create for this. So I'll just go ahead and start this. This will actually, oh no, creating failed already. Okay. The specified bucket is not valid. Invalid bucket name. Okay, well, never mind. So we have an invalid bucket name. I will see if I can, if I can't fix this by the end, by Sunday morning, then that's what we'll be doing, is fixing that. And apparently we have an invalid bucket name. I think I need to make sure that it isn't too long. So we'll have to play around with that. Maybe we'll have to do an exporter too to sort of like see what it's going to be. But we're really close to being able to create these. And once we have that created, then we have to push up and sync the data over there. And then theoretically, our website is up and live. So anyways, with that, thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. I know this type of stuff can be boring for some people, but for me, I enjoy it. Plus also, this is the type of thing that once we get it set up and running, you don't have to worry about it again. And we've got a professional level deployment that we don't have to worry about anymore. So with that, have a great rest of the day. I'll be back on Sunday morning to continue with this. See you then. Bye.